Well, one of the concepts that I've learned through these programs is the concept of what's called the ICP, your ideal customer profile. Prior to doing these programs, there was no ideal client, it was everybody. And when you're trying to please everybody, you're going to please nobody.
Welcome to Collide, your Center for Research and Innovation podcast.
A podcast to ignite ideas, creativity, and innovation through dialogue and knowledge sharing. Hello and welcome to a new episode of Collide, your Center for Research and Innovation podcast. I am Mary Perez.
I am Mauricio Rodriguez.
And we're going to be your co-host for today's episode. So today I'm joined by Dan Genest, who is an entrepreneur and innovator and somebody I see often at CRI. And Mauricio and I were talking about who to invite for our next podcast episode. And we thought Dan would be a very interesting person to talk to because he recently invited us to sort of like an in-house demo, I suppose, for lack of a better word, of what his team has been developing. And we found that fascinating. And also Dan is a fun person to talk to. So welcome, Dan. Do you mind just telling us a little bit about you, who you are, and why you think we invited you to this episode?
Yeah. So hi, Mary and Mauricio. I'm Daniel. I'm the founder of Fixxie 2.0. It's an AI software that we designed to help contractors manage their business.
So I know you originally founded another company, Steady Innovation, and you've had quite an interesting journey kind of bringing things to where they are right now. So tell me a little bit about, so Fixxie sounds like a fun name. Like it almost sounds like a very, like, I don't want to say the word cute, but it does kind of, it makes me smile.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about what Fixxie is?
Yeah, sure. So what Fixxie is today is an AI agent that helps contractors manage their business. The way we got there was that I started a property management business, a number of years ago, and that business grew fairly quickly, and it became clear to me in growing that business that the right software wasn't out there to help me grow. And so I just decided to solve that problem for myself and started by hiring a couple of software developers to build a product in-house that we could then market to the general public. And so we started down that road. We started building that product. And then over the course of a number of years, we've refined that offering to what Fixxie is today.
Okay. So what is Fixxie today? So how would you put that in a nutshell?
So Fixxie is essentially, it's a software that acts as an extra person for a contractor. And so the contractor would interact with Fixxie throughout their day to get the work done. So it's different than a traditional software where most people know software where you have to, you log in and you have to find the buttons and the widgets and all the different features. You have to find them and you have to enter the right data and you have to make sure that everything gets put in properly to get to the right end. And with contractors, there's so much coming and going every day. There's messages, there's phone calls, there's emails, there's new requests, there's old requests, there's all kinds of things constantly. And it's really hard for a contractor to manage all that. And it's even harder when you have software that you don't understand and you don't know where all the buttons are. So we built Fixxie essentially without buttons and without features. You just talk to it and it does the job for you. Okay.
So would a contractor have this on their phone, for example, or how would they use this?
So it's going to be available on iOS and Android and as well on the web. But we're building something that we call a no UI environment. So UI is a user interface. That's what people know when it comes to the software. The thing you see, the thing you interact with on the screen, that's called the UI. So we've made that UI very minimal, but we've also built features that allow people within the contractor's group to communicate with them and to interact with the software without using the software.
Okay.
And so we do that through SMS and through email.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I am not I'm not a contractor, and I am also not very handy. So if I need something done at home, I just ask either a family member who knows and enjoys that, or hire someone. So can you walk me through what a contractor's workflow would be, and how your product pretty much addresses those needs?
Yeah. So through my years as a contractor, I've kind of simmered down the whole workflow into 4 important steps. And that's what we've reflected in this product. And so the first step would be what we call the intake. That's when, all the data comes in. So your client calls you or sends you an email or sends you a message. Some way or another, you find out about the job.
Okay.
And you have to collect the details of that job. That's very important, is to get all the little details, all the photos, the description of the problem, what's going on. And so Fixxie does that, takes all the details for the contractor, makes sure all the details are entered in the right place, and just collects those details for use further down the workflow. The next step in that process would be estimating. And so this is when the contractor, some of the real work starts. The contractor has to estimate what to do.
Right. Yes.
What's the problem? What am I going to fix? What materials am I going to buy? How many people do I need? Those kinds of things.
And the ultimate question, how much is going to cost
Exactly.
you? Right.
How much is it going to cost? How much am I going to charge this client? The next step in the flow would be scheduling. So once the estimate is done and the clients approve the estimate and that's all good, it moves on to the scheduling process. And that is, self-explanatory. It's when you decide to put it on a calendar so that you know when you're going to do it.
Yeah.
We've built this with a very intelligent, artificial intelligent scheduler, and it basically makes sure the jobs get done at the best possible time, not necessarily the next time, the next available time, because those are very different. The best time and the next time are grossly different. And so we're building this model to essentially think of all of the interconnection with all your jobs, and to make sure that the jobs get, scheduled at the right time.
Okay.
And then the final step is the execution of the job. You go out, you do the work, you collect the data of the work being done, and then you report back to the office so that all of the invoicing and all that can be done.
Okay.
And so those are the 4 major steps basically that we've built into Fixxie.
Okay. So if, let's say I'm not a contractor, can I use Fixxie? Is that are contractors your main audience, your main client?
Yeah, right now contractors are essentially the only client.
Okay.
As we started our journey originally, our software was really broad. It had a lot of potential users. So it was targeting property managers and homeowners and tenants and contractors, and it was just way too broad. And through the work that our company has done through Navigate and other programs, we've come to realize that we can't help everybody, and so we've had to really drill down on who has, we'll say, the biggest problem or who needs the most help.
Okay.
And I've come to the conclusion that if I want to help the most people, I need to give the contractors better tools to be able to do the work. So our product kind of evolved from what I just talked about with all those users. It turned into a 2-sided marketplace for contractors and homeowners. So if you had something wrong at your house, you could submit a request. Contractor would take it on and then do the work, and you guys would interact through this platform. And it's that was already a refinement from our previous offering, but it was still not refined enough. And in speaking with a lot of the clients and the contractors, we just kept hearing the same message. The contractors are overwhelmed. They didn't need a marketplace. They didn't need another place to get jobs. They have, they have way more jobs than they can handle anyways. But what we did in this other platform, this marketplace, is we had built a bunch of tools for the contractors to help them manage their jobs, because I'm a contractor, so I kind of know where the gaps are.
Right.
And so they were telling us, we don't want the marketplace, but we kind of like all these tools you built. And so we started modifying the product so that they could use it just as a tool to manage their business. And then that forced us to really rethink of our offering to the point where now the product has evolved to just being a product for the contractor.
Okay.
The homeowner has a minimal interaction with it, where the contractor can send a message out saying, your job is scheduled for Monday or whatever.
Okay.
And the homeowners can interact via SMS with the software through that UI thing I talked about.
Okay.
But all of our effort really is going towards the contractors.
Okay. And when you say contractors, we're talking about like trades.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about
Plumbers, electricians,
okay.
carpenters, roofers, road crews, just about any kind of construction work.
Okay. And do you have a particular, I guess, ideal client? Also, when it comes to demographics, like I can, I'm thinking myself, like when it comes to, like I need help organizing my life,
Everybody does.
my work and whatnot. But, I've been a bit reluctant to use some AI tools or some computer-based tools. I do like pen and paper.
Yeah.
However, recently I have discovered, like, I love my to-do list. That's how I function every day. And whatever doesn't get done at the end of the day gets moved to the next day's to-do list. But I've discovered this really cool integrated app that is connected to my email. And it's, I'm not going to advertise Microsoft, but it is a Microsoft, it's called the To-Do app. Uh-huh. And it just blends my emails, and like it can actually pull. If I let it, it can pull tasks out of my email, for example. But it took me a long time to give in to, to explore what that check mark was on my Outlook. But it took a lot of thought. And I at the beginning, I didn't want to give up my pen and paper, but I still use pen and paper, but I use that tool on my computer, and it actually has helped me improve my productivity.
Yeah.
But it took a long time for me to get there. Now, have you encountered or do you foresee having a bit of that wall, I suppose, in potential clients?
That's a really great question. When I first started down the software development route, I thought and I wanted everyone to use my software, and that everyone was a potential client, and this was going to be a massive success. And the reality is, no software can please everyone. It's back to that same thing where I had just had too many users in the beginning.
Yes.
And so now that I've got it refined to contractors, it's not even all contractor and every contractor. I would love for every contractor to use it, but the reality is they won't.
Yeah.
And construction is an industry where technological adoption has been slow. Contractors and tradespeople, they like doing their trade. They want to do their trade.
Yes.
A lot of them picked, their trades because this is what they're good at. And this is what they want to do. They don't really want to be doing paperwork. So there is a demographic of contractors that will never really adopt technology, or it'll be a really long time. I remember interviewing this one contractor that I had dealt with through my own business. One of the best contractors I had dealt with. Really good, really professional, had a good sized business, had been going for many years. And when I was telling him about my product, he paused and he reached in his bag and he pulled out this notebook. And he goes, Dan, this is my entire business. Everything about my business is in this notebook. I don't do computers. And at that point, a light kind of clicked, like, okay, I could spend the next 4 hours trying to convince this guy to use computers, which he may say yes or no, but then I still have to convince him to use my app versus another product. So I'm like, okay, I'm never going to convince this guy, or it'll take so much effort that I really should spend my time elsewhere. And so that's where this concept of finding my ideal client kind of started. That's where that journey started, was with this conversation. And I've been speaking to a lot of contractors, and the reality is, like I said, not everybody will adopt it. So I've identified those who I think will, and they're typically younger contractors. They're either starting in the business. I've noticed a big trend of some of them are inheriting their businesses from their parents.
Okay.
Their parents have built a really wonderful business. They're at the age where they're retiring. They're passing the business on to their kids, and there's no systems in the business. So the kids are younger. They understand tech. They want tech.
Yes.
And they're inheriting these businesses, and some of these are sizable businesses, and they really don't have a way to manage them, and so they're kind of freaking out, like, oh my God, I know the trade, but I don't know how to run a business. What am I doing here? And so that's who we're looking for.
Okay. And are your potential clients, like, are you focusing on a Newfoundland market, or are you thinking broadly Canada or, internationally perhaps?
We're starting here in Newfoundland only because we happen to be based here. We have a few trial users that are using it. As soon as we get our next platform, so we're currently developing our second version of Fixxie. Should be done in a few weeks. And then once that is done, we will be marketing it broadly across the country.
Okay. And just curious, how did you come up with the name?
Well, the two-sided market that we built was called Fixden, the place where you get stuff fixed. And then we built this agent for, for Fixden and, fix. And the agent's job is to get things fixed. So called it Fixxie.
Yes.
I love riding bikes. I have a fixed, fixed gear bike. And so kind of a play on that. But
Yes.
Fixxie just kind of...
I think it's brilliant because it makes you think of almost like a magical character who can kind of help you
that was the
get out of trouble.
That was the goal. It's a bit like a fairy that can fix things for you.
Right. No, it is brilliant.
Because usually for tech apps or websites, whatever, the names are too cold. Like it feels like it's a robot or something.
Yes,
and as you said, like this feels like a little character that will help you.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So Dan, what are your thoughts for people who may be uncomfortable with AI, artificial intelligence? I got mixed feelings. Sometimes I teach at the university and I got my own set of things to ponder and deal with. But like, what are your thoughts when it comes to that topic?
Yeah, that's a hot button topic these days. AI does not come without its risks. I'm aware of that. I remember listening to a talk a number of years ago, and the speaker was speaking about, humanity and creating technologies, and he made this analogy of creating a technology is kind of like reaching your hand into an urn and pulling out a ball, and each ball is a technology, and some of them are white balls, and we pull them out and they're white balls and they're great and we use them and they help humanity, and some of them are black balls, and we don't know that until we stick our hand in.
Right. Unfortunately,
there's been a lot of examples of those kinds of things that have led to really, bad problems because we didn't know what we didn't know. And so that could apply with AI.
Right.
It could be harmful, but it also could be very helpful. And so I think if we don't work on it, if we don't actively work on it as a society, individual pockets will, and they could develop something harmful. And so, again, I'm not speaking with a ton of confidence on this because it's such a new and emerging field. Even in the past year, the progress in these technologies is absolutely astounding.
It is.
It's astounding. Like,
and is more readily available. It is right on our phones, right?
Yeah, and it's so much more powerful than it was. Like, it's hard really to explain the progress of it. So. Yeah, there are concerns, but we should have these concerns with any technology we develop.
Right.
We should do it, safely and reflectively, and not just jump into it.
Right.
At the end, it always depends on us, right? Like,
It does, yeah.
How do you use it? Because among the arts community, there's a big concern because there's now music or, I don't know, visual art being developed by AI, right? But I think that Fixxie is a proof that you can do it, use it as a tool that will help you, because this is not taking anyone's job, right? It's not like there's somebody who does this kind of work for contractors. It's a tool that will help you, right? And it won't hurt anybody.
Well, there's two ways to look at that. Definitely, it's a tool, and if you use it as such, it will help and bring benefit. I think it will unfortunately contract the market for jobs. Some people will unfortunately lose their jobs if they don't adapt. A way to, I guess, to look at that, I do a lot of woodworking as one of my hobbies, and so when you get, a tree just a tree, and you want to make something out of it, you first need to cut it into boards. So you would rip it open and make boards with it. And then you would, cut the edges off, make everything square, and then you would plane it and make it smooth, and then you can make something with it. Well, today, if I want to do that, I pull out my machinery. I pull out a saw. I'll pull out a big electric planer, and I could plane things en masse. I can produce lumber really quick. Well, back in the day, before electrical power and before all these machines, those tasks were done by apprentices, and so the craftsman would be the guy who would do all the fancy work, but then he would have a number of apprentices who would do all the cutting and the planing and all of the I'll call it low value work. It's very important, and you can't do anything past it, but it doesn't take any kind of particular skill to do that part of the work. And so when machineries came out, the people losing their jobs were the apprentices that didn't have those higher level skills. So the master craftsmen, they're not out of work. Now they've got a better tool to do their thing. Yeah. And so I think AI will do the same thing. I'm telling my developers, my team, to stay current. I put it on them that they have to do professional development every single year to stay on top of these technologies, to learn them and to be good with them. Because if they don't, somebody else will come along who knows these technologies and will take their jobs. Yeah. I don't know that it'll wipe out the entire economy. I think it'll change things. It'll change the way we, economies run, and it could open up a lot of things that aren't possible today.
And it is a wave that we need to adapt to. As a professor, as a teacher, I cannot pretend it doesn't exist. It does exist, and some people use it as a tool. And I think it comes back to keeping in mind the ethics of things, like how right now, when I get a student paper and if I am suspicious that it was probably generated by ChatGPT or any other form of AI, it's kind of not always easy to spot, but sometimes you can see, it's very impersonal and it's a very complex issue here. But when you use a tool to help you unleash your creativity is a lot different than when you use it to do the creativity for you,
to replace,
right? So I think if we keep feeding our critical thinking, our design thinking, our capacities as human beings, it is a wonderful tool. It frees me from I have horrible handwriting. So handwriting my to-do notes, sometimes I don't even understand them. But if I type them, and it's just faster. It is faster, and it helps me be more efficient. I felt good yesterday when I went home. I got a lot done. There are days when I just have been staring at a piece of paper all day and don't feel like I get anywhere. But I think it's keeping in mind the ethics of what we're using, how we're using it is going to be very important. And we need to evolve. Yeah. Whether we want to or not, our brains are going to change.
Exactly. Can do anything about it.
Our children's learning processes are going to be different.
Yeah, there's no doubt it'll probably have an impact on society. Yeah. I'd like to think for the better. It, like you say, it can increase productivity, a lot. Like I couldn't run my business today without the use of AI. I'm using it all day, every day, and the way same as that example from earlier. I use it to do the lower value work. The high volume stuff that doesn't really need my brain power. And then once I get all of that kind of distilled by the AI, the various AI products I use, then I can really focus my thinking on this material in front of me. And so, it's not really creating because I'm telling it what I want.
Yes.
And then as it gives me the work, then I can reiterate it. And that's when I make it my own. So yeah, sure. Some people won't use it that way, but they're going to basically rat themselves out because the work will speak for itself.
Yes.
So like your students giving you the personal essay.
Right.
And they won't progress.
Right. Exactly.
And at the end of the day, you came up with the idea of Fixxie. It's not like AI can give you a cool idea about a business.
Yeah, that's right.
Because you have the experience, you were a contractor yourself, so you understand the market. Yeah. And that's something that no AI will give you, right? You can use it as a tool.
That's right.
But like the creativity and the experience, it comes from a human.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Ideas are cheap. There's you could have 1,000 good ideas in a day, but executing them and getting them through to the end, that's
Yeah.
I don't think AI is there yet where it can do that for us.
Right. Yeah.
And changing a little bit,
Yes.
okay, to the entrepreneurial aspect of it. You mentioned your team, and I know because of the presentation you invited us that you are working with a couple of incubators.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about it? Who
Yeah.
are you working with?
Yeah, definitely. Well, firstly, I work with Navigate. I've been a Navigate client for many years now, starting with my previous business and then through various iterations. And they've helped me a lot. So right now I'm in the incubator program at Navigate. It's a 6-month program. We're housed here in the CRI, which is a wonderful building. It gives us a really great professional place to work. And I'm also working with the Genesis program. So we're an enterprise company. That's a 3-year program. They're based out of St. John's, and they similar mandate to Navigate. They're a little bit different in how they deliver their programs. And that comes with a tremendous amount of support, both financial and organizational. And they've helped make really big companies. So we're thrilled to be a part of both those incubators.
Okay. So how would you say they've helped you get your business up and running? And I'm very fascinated by the thought that you've had to narrow things down.
Yeah.
Right. And going back to your quote of, ideas are cheap. Like you've made this idea and you've narrowed it down. How have these programs, I guess, helped you get that?
Yeah. So, one of the concepts that I've learned through these programs is the concept of what's called the ICP, your ideal customer profile. And prior to doing these programs, I didn't really think that. I didn't even realize that this was a concept. I just would think about who might use my programs, and that was everybody. There was no ideal client; it was everybody. And when you're trying to please everybody, you're going to please nobody. And so it's through this work of refining what the ICP is and who it is for me. That was probably one of my biggest learnings, I'll say, this year. It's really helped me focus my offering to just, not even all contractors, like those contractors that fit my definition of my client. That's been one big thing that I've gotten from these programs is, we'll say, the formal training part of it, or the business coaching. I'm an entrepreneur. I've had businesses for a little while, but I still feel like I don't know anything, and I need to learn constantly. And then there's a lot of the I would say my biggest gain from joining these programs is all of the little intangible things that you can't measure. Connections you make, people you meet.
Yeah, that's right.
Opportunities, doors that open that probably wouldn't be open otherwise. And there's been a lot of those that I could give you 10 examples of those kinds of things.
Yeah. And I find that incredibly rewarding and inspiring. And I think our first episode we were exploring the title Collide, and the idea is that when you have an open space, a public space, a space where people come with ideas, collisions happen in the good sense, sparking ideas. And again, I don't get to work with you, but just watching you work and listening to your presentations, chatting about working out, the bikes and whatnot. But I know you've also met other people who now work for you, and it's been through a collision of
Absolutely.
a meeting place, right? So back to the idea of entrepreneurship, and you said you've been at this for a long time. So how do you survive it? Like how do you cope with how do you cope with the stress of, oh my gosh, you're running a business and it better make money because you have a family to feed, right? So how do you cope with that?
Well, stress is always present, I guess, for everybody. Entrepreneurship is for sure challenging. I have a pretty good routine, pretty good stress management routine. I do a lot of exercise, and I walk a lot during the day. So I'll take several walks during the day. I go clear my head. And I work better in small focused bursts rather than continuous effort. And so I'll come in, I'll do a burst, I'll deal with something stressful, I'll go out, I'll blow it off. I'll take a walk around Margaret Bow Water, or I'll go to the gym, or I'll go for a bike ride. So I'm just really mindful about stress, and I feel it coming on, and then I'll usually deal with it. I don't tend not to let it accumulate like I have in the past. So I find that's the best.
Right.
For me, it's the best way.
And that's amazing that you know yourself so well, that you know how you're going to get yourself to be productive again, right? And that's really wise. Like, so they say that humans nowadays can't focus for, is it longer than 10 minutes?
Yeah, it's
or
shameful.
Exactly. So, well, let's like focus for 10 minutes, but really do it. And that does increase your productivity.
It does, yeah.
I was wondering, because I've seen your team work and you have a lot of really cool people, nice people, kind people. How do you do it? What are you trying to get from people when you hire somebody?
I love that question. As I started my businesses, I came to the quick realization that like the people you hire are going to make your business. And hiring people is difficult. It's by far the most challenging part of running a business. I think I'd be surprised if any other entrepreneur would say something different. So the way I hire now is only through recruitment. I don't put ads up anymore. So I only, through word of mouth, or I'll put it out to my network. Like one of the developers I recently hired worked here at the CRI, and I had actually forgotten about him, and I was speaking with someone else at the CRI, and I was like, hey, I'm looking for a developer. Do you happen to know anybody? And he says, what about Jacob? And I was like, oh my God, you're so right.
Yes.
And I called Jacob, and sure enough, it all lined up. Or through like my Genesis network, I'll send out messages, and if anybody's looking. So I try to recruit. I think for me that's a big part of the success, because the people I work with or I talk to, I kind of know a bit about them. They know about me, and generally they won't refer somebody they don't think is a good fit. And through all of my various work and life experiences, I think I've become an okay judge of character.
Right.
And so I spend a bit of time with them. I try to figure it out if I could work with them or not. I don't have a real playbook. It's been all just a bit sort of an evolution in how I do it, and just sort of an organic way of finding people.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So Dan, if anybody's interested in Fixxie, how can they, or what should they wait for? How can they find your business?
Sure. Right now, the two-sided marketplace is still live, so they could always go there. It's fixden.com, fixden.com. You could sign up there and let us know you're interested, and also watch for our social media campaigns. They're going to be out in a few weeks.
So are you on social media? Is your business on social media?
We are, yeah.
Okay.
Well, Fixden is the two-sided marketplace where we're refactoring the product now to just be Fixxie.
Okay.
That isn't yet on social media.
Okay. And if we have any entrepreneurs listening to us and they're thinking of starting their own business, who should they reach out to?
Well, CRI is always a good place to start for information. There's all kinds of workshops and all kinds of things that are available here. Navigate obviously would be a great start point. But also just reach out to other business owners that ultimately starting a business is unless you have a business partner, it's a one person show, and you need to just do it.
Right.
Really, there's no magic.
Right. And I find that very encouraging that like entrepreneurial, like when you talk to entrepreneurs, there is this sense of community.
Yeah.
Right. And there's this sense of because you all have such unique focus, it's not like you're competing with the guy sitting next to you.
That's
there.
right.
Like you're encouraging each other. You're not competing with each other. And eventually maybe we'll have competition, and that'll be wonderful.
Yeah.
But our Newfoundland community is not big enough, I guess, for too many of the same type of ideas to emerge. So I do really get that sense of community from the Navigate cohorts that come here. So
yeah, definitely entrepreneurs support each other. I've always found that, even if they're in direct competitions, a lot of times if there's respect, there's just, an understanding that sometimes there is place for two of us and we'll work together and not against each other. But yeah, it is a a good community. Entrepreneurship has always been a part of Newfoundland. By nature of the province, there's not a lot of things here, so people have to figure it out and start things.
All right. Well, then I think we're going to wrap it up. But thank you so much for coming in. I mean, you are always here, but for taking a little bit of time away from your desk and chatting with us. It is inspiring to see you. It is inspiring to see what your team is doing. And we're very excited for you and look forward to Fixxie being live out there to help contractors deal with their mess.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me this morning. And I appreciate everything you guys do for us and in this town.
This has been an episode of Collide, your Center for Research and Innovation podcast.
Generating community and creativity through idea collision.